This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
So how you been?
Been good. Been good.
Yeah.
I had some health issues, but recovering from that, and the wife's make sure I'm doing the right thing, if you know what I mean. So,
Yeah. She's staying on top of you, huh?
you know it.
That is cool.
Yep.
Well, shoot, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Sure. Anytime. Anytime I can help some not only student athletes but KU student athletes, I'm all in.
Cool. Well, I'll try to keep it nice and swift and quick for you. So what I normally do is kind of go into my intro, which I'll do here now, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit. Welcome everyone. Hopefully we have some young student athletes watching this. My name is Pat Brown. I'm a financial advisor with Edmonds Duncan here in Lawrence, Kansas, and played football for the University of Kansas years and years ago. Played outside linebacker, played for 3 years, started for 3 years, and loved the experience. Met, great people, great friends, and so became very passionate about financial literacy for student athletes, and started this series of interviews with former student athletes, with the hopes that current student athletes can gain, awareness from their successes and their failures, and so wanted to kind of dive into that. And so one thing I always do with my interviews is just kind of talk about the definition of financial literacy. So financial literacy is a possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all their financial resources. So having said all that, and the reason I always start with them, because I'm under the impression a lot of my student athletes are kind of under the impression when they hear financial literacy that they think that financial literacy means that they're not bright or not smart, because that just has kind of a bad connotation. So, the habits that we form as student athletes, I think, is indicative of forming the same type of habits as far as financial literacy is concerned, because you're, doing the same thing over and over and over, forming those small habits that will hopefully build up as time goes within college. So that's why I typically do that. So having said that, I want to go ahead and introduce my man Alonzo Jamison, who, if you're a KU person, you definitely know who this cat is. So, man, if you can kind of dive into your time there at KU. I know that you had transferred, you're originally from California, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And so you were a JUCO transfer, or what? How'd that go?
I spent 1 year at junior college in California. Then I transferred out the same year they won it all in 1988. So uh, I came in a year after they won it. So I missed it by a year, but it is what it is.
Right. And so then you guys went on to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken, right?
91, my junior year, we went to the Final Four. Actually, we went to the national championship game. We lost to Duke.
Yeah.
72-65. As some of you student athletes know, there's some games you don't forget. That is definitely one of them. So I mean, it was a great experience, but just wish we would have gotten over the hump, but we didn't. So yeah, you got to live with that. And I think about it, at least now it's once a week. So before, so being that close to being immortalized in the record books is a big thing.
Absolutely. Well, so one of my first questions here, kind of right out the gate, when you were, whether it's JUCO or even coming to KU, as far as from a money management, credit, budgeting, savings, did anybody ever talk to you about that? Whether a parent or whether, here at KU?
Like I said, I'm originally from California, so under the parents' house, once you get out of that and you are on your own, you think you can do certain things. And I've been there, just like you've been there. So when it comes to a background of not having a lot of money and you come into some of the money, and credit is the worst thing you could actually have as in that regard, if you know what I mean. So you're thinking, hey, I got this piece of plastic, I can go ahead and get whatever I want.
Whatever you want.
Yep. But you got to remember, you still got to pay that off with interest. So I know a lot of people are not thinking along those lines. Freshmen and sophomores in college, they're going day to day. They're not even worried about what's going to happen 2 years or whatever is going to happen to their credit report. So uh, been there, done that. But you know, I try to talk to some of these young folks, especially in high school, and tell them, hey, I know you don't want to hear this because a lot of people don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
but in the long term, it's best for you. You gotta start listening and doing certain things to help your future.
Yeah. And when we started this, I failed to mention, again, for some of the young guys that hopefully are watching this, Zoe is also a head coach as well. So you're kind of talking in both sides as, former student athlete as well as a head coach. So your
And I was a bank,
insight is good. What's that?
and I was a banker once I got out of college. So
Oh,
I've been on both sides of the things. I've seen it left and right. And you know, you read about these athletes that are professional athletes now and that are just blowing their money left and right, and they're not saving for a rainy day. They're not budgeting. That's the biggest thing especially when
mhm.
you're in college. You got to budget. If you don't budget, once you get out of college, you're just going to go crazy. You're going to go buck wild, and you're going to end up owing a lot of people a lot of money. You're going to mess up your credit report, and then once you do get married, because most people do get married,
Yeah.
try to screw up your report where you can't get that house, you can't get that new car that you want,
Yeah.
and
Speak
if
that
you want
truth,
that,
man.
you're going to be spending a hell of a lot more money than what you would have had if you had a decent credit report. So I know we're talking at some of these kids and they probably don't want to listen to it, but I wish I had something like this when I was in college because I fell into that trap. That little
Yeah.
piece of plastic, that little piece of plastic didn't mean a thing to me. As long as I know I had money on it, I'm good. But at least I was good. And once I got out of college, I went into banking and I saw all of that crap.
Yeah.
And trust me, it is crap, but you got to live by it. Everybody's got to live by it. So
Yeah. Again, preaching to the choir. Same thing with me. Go up on campus and you fill out a little application, get your little T-shirt, you get the pack of Skittles, and you got that plastic, in a couple of weeks, and
yep,
what's up? You
yep.
can do whatever you want. Um, so the irony that as athletes, student athletes, we're so structured. Our life is so structured with workouts, regiment, habits, but just that financial piece, it's gone. We don't have anything habit wise towards that. So if we could just at least use just a bit of the same habits and the mindset that we use for athletics, I mean, it obviously would be tremendous. Um, so that kind of took me to the next question, which we already touched on, budget and saving. So when you were in college, how did you come to some of the decisions that you made in college with regards to money? Again, is it just kind of trial and error, or
That's basically what it is. I mean, when you don't have that background, the first thing you want to do is just go out and it's the same thing like as a freshman in college,
Mhm.
uh, especially the year after you're in college and you're still playing your sport, but you're playing it for money. It's that
Yeah,
same regard. You're gonna go out and get whatever you want. Then you stop saving. You stop doing the things that's like I said for a rainy day because you never know what's gonna happen. And it's just you just mentioned that student athletes have habits on a
hmm
daily basis. You go to school, you go to class. Some people have practice in the morning, you go to class or practice at night. You go to study hall. You go to excuse me for a second.
no, okay,
So you go to a study table. You have training table,
hmm
and then by that time it's 10 o'clock at night when you're
yep,
done. So you repeat that on a daily basis. Now, if just throw in a class or somebody that's going to come and talk to you during your training table about saving, that's going to be one of those things that stick in your mind, especially when you get mature enough for that to happen. Now, that's going to happen in college,
yeah,
either by chance or by my regard. And in my instance, it was forced on me just because I had that plastic and I did whatever I wanted. but
Hmm.
I didn't see what was on the other side of that. So that's why I said I was forced to figure
Mm,
that out. And somebody like you, I mean, if we can get people to understand the student athletes where you're coming from, and you're not just trying to get business or anything like that, you're trying to help them. That's the
yeah,
biggest thing.
yeah.
As long as they know that you're trying to help, hopefully they'll understand what you're trying to get at. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things when I saw your stuff on Facebook, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad. I said to myself, I'm glad somebody's actually doing it. I can't do it, but I'm glad you're doing it. And
Yeah.
I,
It's
like I
it's a
said, go ahead.
it's been a passion project for me for some time, and what changed for me coming out of school, I just didn't have any type of exposure to it at all. My parents, college
Yeah.
educated parents, all 9 yards, but when we sat at the table for dinner, we didn't discuss this stuff. And
Hmm.
going through school, and one of the classes that I took towards the end of my year was, or end of my time at our KU, was a transition from college to the workplace. And they talked about all this stuff. I was a communication major. They talked about mutual funds, stocks, and all this stuff was just going over my head. And I remember some of teammates understood it. Some of the guys on the basketball team understood it, but I didn't. And I just became really embarrassed. And that's when I started really reading about majority of this stuff and trying to really understand, at least get a grasp of it and create a foundation. So ever since then, I would always call back to KU and say, hey, look, if there's anything I can do, volunteer my time, whatever. I just think it's important. Obviously, it's important across the board with students in general, but being a student athlete, it hits home with me because I know as student athletes, your time is just really, really tight and constricted. So having said that, yeah, it's definitely a soapbox passion of mine. So
I'm glad you said that because there's a lot of student athletes that have that same background. I was the same way. I didn't have that. We didn't sit around the table. Luckily, nobody actually sat around my dinner table and talked about certain things like that. And everybody has a completely different background when it comes to that. But I
hmm
think probably 60 to 75% of the kids don't have that background where they can sit down and talk financial stuff to parents. And maybe that's another big thing we ought to do is talk to, not only talk to them, but go to high school and start talking to parents. And
mm,
I think they have a big influence on what kids actually do.
interesting. Yeah. No, that's really good. Yeah, because that kind of starts that conversation then. Because
Right.
exposure is everything. If you
Yeah.
can understand, yeah, what's out there, what obviously in your world as far as banking or just an investment world, just understand that there is a different world out there with respect to that. And so the quicker you're exposed to it, the quicker you start making these decisions based off that information.
Right.
Um, so next question, just kind of looking back at college now. And again, I know it feels been a minute. What do you wish you would have done different in regards to dealing with your money? And it sounds like, with the credit card was obviously one of the huge things with you. Is that what you're kind of go with that particular question?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not saying not to have the credit card, but you got to be smart with it with your credit card. You just can't
And understand
go
it.
out. Yeah, go out and uh, spend money at Taco Bell for three of your friends and yourself, and the next thing you know, you're spending $20, but on the back end of that is $25 once you get the bill in. So
Yeah.
uh, I would say that would probably be my biggest thing would be that and also budgeting. Because
Mm,
once you're in college, they give you a stipend or a per diem. So
yep.
you got to figure out what you want to do with it. You just can't go to the grocery store and spend money on magazines and books and, or I should say books, but magazines and
Mm,
that type of stuff. You got to figure out what you need and then try to sock away as much as you possibly can because you never know what's going to happen. Could be
yeah.
walking down the street and blow out your knee or blow, like me. I had Achilles tendon that I ruptured. So
Mm,
right after out of college, but still, you never know what's going to happen.
you never know. You're absolutely right. Um, how has the habits that you formed in college affected life after college, or has it?
uh, once I think about the first 5 years out of college was about paying off all my credit cards,
Yeah.
all of the credit cards. I had two or three actually I had three when I was in college, and by the time I got out of college, all of them were up to the maximum level. So it
Yeah.
was one of those things where I had to live. I had to, like I said before, I was forced to budget because now
Mm,
I got a house. I got a house, a new wife, and car notes, everything
yeah.
else. So you got to learn how to budget and do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. So we're kind of coming to the end here. Last question. So what are some of the pitfalls? And it sounds like you kind of answered this question, but what are some of the pitfalls that you would hope that your story could prevent the young student athletes, hopefully that are watching and listening? What would you hope that it would prevent them? Or I guess what stories would you think would help them if you kind of look back and say, hey, young man, listen to what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Uh, what I
Or a
would
young
say,
lady, I should say. I don't, again, it's just not for, boys, but yeah,
what I would say is when you go to the bookstore, like you said earlier, get the Skittles, but don't fill out the credit report or the application, I should say. Just
yeah,
grab the Skittles and say, okay, I don't want to do this. I really don't. Even though you think in the back of your mind, this is free money.
right.
Especially as a student athlete, you're like, I don't have to pay this to win. No, this is free. No, it's not free. Nothing
Mm,
in this world is free. There's always going to be a catch to something. So, uh, what I would say, get away from those pitfalls is just budget, and also just stay away from those that quote easy money end quote, if you know what I mean. So
yeah,
uh, you just watch your P's and Q's,
mm,
because
gotcha.
as soon as you do something like that, there's always going to be that deadline on the back end of things.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So now this is the part where we just kind of talk about you, man. It kind of, obviously, like I said, I know KU family knows about you, but what have you been doing after college? I know you got into banking and coaching. I mean, what are you doing nowadays? And how's Zoe doing?
I'm doing well. I'm still recovering from my kidney transplant, but that's
Mhm.
my biggest thing right now is getting the word out there about the donation part of being a part of the kidney transplants. So uh, been doing some stuff here in Kansas and doing stuff in Missouri, even though I try to stay away from Missouri, but
Right.
so uh, just trying to do me. Actually, I got a purpose in life now, so
All right.
and it is to help people get a kidney. I've helped probably three or four actually already, but there's still a hell of a lot more people out there that need kidneys. So it's
Awesome.
just one of those things where it happened to me, and I'm trying to pay it forward to other
Yeah.
people. So, yeah.
That is awesome. My wife works at DaVita here in town, and
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, she's a social worker there, and so she obviously comes in contact with that quite a bit. So I would imagine you probably either at some point will run into her just in general. So,
Well,
but yeah, man. Okay.
I hope I do, because we need all the good people we can get. Just try to get the word out there that we need more people to help other folks out. So that's what we're on the Earth for, is to help each other out. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said any better. Well, again, I appreciate your time, man. Hopefully it wasn't too long, but it's for a worthy cause, and like I said, your words matter.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, sir, and I appreciate all the work you're doing. Keep it up.
Absolutely. I plan to, man. It's good talking with you.
Talk to you later.
Yep. Rock chalk, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.